And that's where Maverick comes in because, my life's been about poker, and our team has the wherewithal, the expertise, and we're happy to partner with companies and just start bringing back rooms one by one, breathing life into poker rooms across North America, and also making the Maverick brand bigger and bigger.
Kind of the dream that I'm trying to sell here. I think it's still possible. It's hard for people to have much individuality, but I think that poker, to some extent, represents that. At least it's an option if someone does make some money and succeeds and goes and starts a business or whatever it is. Now they're fully independent. That's one of the things I really believe in poker, or one thing I really like about it. Do you agree? And I'm curious of a follow-up question. I'm curious of the only thing with poker is I'm curious of the incentive structure with that. But first, do you agree with what I'm saying? Is that relevant to your aspirations?
I think that what you're saying, it resonates with a lot of the people who follow and engage with me. My story is that I was adopted, and I grew up in a very, very poor town. And, I never had anything, handed to me. And I've been fighting for whatever I have my whole life. And so there's wins and there's losses and there's, getting kicked in the nuts and getting back up. And I think that the more people have understood about, who I am, what my life is, it's just how my brand's grown. So I do believe poker has a very special place in my heart because in so many ways it's egalitarian. It doesn't care if you're a man or a woman. It doesn't care about anything. If you're willing to put in the work and spend the time and truly care, you can be successful, and you can carve out a life that can be different than the life that you have. And usually there's a lot of people who beat poker, but they don't beat the other leagues in their life, as you know, Dan. And so it could be sports betting, it could be drugs, it could be partying, it could be whatever it is. But the poker itself, the people who focus on it and really are willing to spend the time, they'll succeed. And it truly changed my life, And so now to be in a spot where, I was an 18-year-old playing 1 to 5 at the Trop without an ID and just hoping they never ID'd me, to a place now where, I'm building poker rooms with other gaming companies, is really cool because I believe that poker's in its renaissance. World Series has had its most entrants ever again. But yet poker, but yet poker is not, flourishing like it will yet. And that's because if you take a look at the profit center in casinos, over 90% is going to be driven from slot machines. The balance is going to be driven from some hotel rooms or just depending on the mix of whatever that business is. But as a consequence, the people who focus on those businesses, who manage those businesses, they usually come up with a marketing background or they come up with a slot background. But they definitely don't come up with a poker background, and they very rarely even have a tables background. And so what's happened in North America is poker has declined. And poker's is not, there's all kinds of places where it's legal to have poker rooms, and there's casinos, but they just choose not to have poker rooms. And the reason they choose is not because the poker rooms can't, eke out 2, 5, maybe 10 million a year in profit, but because they don't know where to start. They know there's a lot of labor involved. They know it's a big bet. They have to dedicate the space. They've never built a poker room before. They don't know how to train all the dealers. They don't know what the difference between a bad beat and a high hand is. They don't know how to integrate into the tournament circuit. They don't know how would I get all these dealers for the tournament circuit if I actually did have a big tournament in my place. So it seems like too much trouble for a lot of operators. And that's where Maverick comes in because, my life's been about poker, and our team has the wherewithal, the expertise, and we're happy to partner with companies and just start bringing back rooms one by one, breathing life into poker rooms across North America, and also making the Maverick brand bigger and bigger. So I think that the Maverick, what you're saying, is why the followers I have, the people who, so passionately defend me, they know that I fight, and they know that I don't just do what everybody else does. And they know that they can identify with me because I win and I lose. I'm not the best technical poker player in the world. There's no doubt about that. But I'm in this really crazy sweet spot where I'm good enough to beat a lot of games. I'm smart enough to focus on the right opponents, but I'm not so good that I can't get into really big private games. So it's It's a hard dynamic because, as you know, Dan, one of the hardest things in poker is there is this ceiling for a lot of younger players. They have studied GTO charts, and they're really good with ranges, and they'll beat a 2-5 game, they'll beat a 5-10 game, they'll beat the 10-20 game over at the Wynn, but they don't know how to get into like the big privates, the 100, 200, and they'll never get into the really, really big games, and it's because the people who do, they don't understand that poker isn't about just solving ranges and being a profitable poker player. You have to be able to bring something incremental to the game to get into these really big opportunities. And that's like, for a lot of players, sadly, it's like if they can bring another bad player, then they can get into a private game. But like, people have to want to play with you. So what I'd really encourage, and Dan, you take a lot of effort in that, actually, is like, you have to be engaging, right? You can't just be sitting there like we're playing chess and like you're in such anguish, pain for 1 minute to make these decisions, and you think that that's what beating poker is, because it's not. It will limit your career. Like, literally, you'll hit that ceiling and you'll just never be able to go further. You have to be able to. People have to want to play with you, and at the same time you want to be profitable. So it's like that's the balance. It's really, really hard for so many people. But the idea of playing in these, enormous cash games, everybody identifies, and they all say, man, if I get in that game, I would just crush it. But they just never will, like, for the most part. And they never will because they won't do all the work it takes to figure out how to get in that game. And I don't think you can be the best cash game player in the world if you can't even get in the game,